Thank you so much for joining. I think this is the 11th session of our Open Design Guide Reading Club, and I will share the notes document as usual. I'm going to post it right here in the chat. Today we are tackling chapter 10. There are only 13 chapters, and I think the last page is actually just an about page. So we're really nearing the end of the guide, which is pretty cool. I will also share a link to the page that we will discuss. So if you go to the Open Design Guide, it is chapter 10, Advanced Topics. That was also in the chat here. On other notes, so it feels like this page is a little bit, we've kind of covered a lot of the, it's almost like another page that says like, here's some other stuff that's going to come up down the road, maybe. That's kind of what it sounds like to me, advanced topics. But other than that, if you'd like to do PR reviews on previous pages, there are 3 PR reviews open right now. Ariel has already given feedback on 2 of them. And I just created another one yesterday. Those are for chapters 5, 6, and 7. And other than that, should we hop in? Anything else before we start? Have you had a chance to read the page beforehand?
No, I haven't.
Okay, cool. Then we'll hop in there all fresh. I will do my best again to take notes. As I mentioned in one pull request, the notes are actually incredibly helpful because I basically, as you may know, AI has written these initial page versions. So I give that page again to the AI with all of our feedback and then see what it comes up with. I don't just use that as the new version, but it is helpful to see where it takes us. And then, I do a bunch of editing, and that's the updated page versions come out of that. So the notes are actually very, very helpful for improving the pages. Anyone like to kick us off with reading? Any volunteers?
No? Okay, I'll go then. Let's go. Leading design initiatives. As you gain experience in open source, you might find yourself ready to lead design efforts. Here's how to approach this. Understand the big picture. Get to know the project's goals, roadmap, and community dynamics. Build trust. Before proposing big changes, contribute consistently and show you understand the project's values. Communicate clearly. When proposing initiatives, explain the benefits for users and the project as a whole. Be inclusive. Involve other designers and non-designers in the process. Open source is all about collaboration. Break it down. Large initiatives can be overwhelming. Break them into smaller, manageable tasks. Document everything. Clear documentation helps others understand and contribute to your initiative. Be patient. Change can happen slowly in open source. Stay persistent and positive. Remember, leadership in open source is more about influence and inspiration than authority. Well, AI didn't do a bad job of writing this, is my first impression. For point number 1, understand the big picture. I would add in GitHub as well, because a lot of the open source projects have conversations going on in GitHub, so I would only just add that in. Being inclusive, involve other designers. In point number 4, I would add something in about inclusivity. It's more about the how of inclusivity, and that is more about reaching consensus as a group. I would add in for number 4. Leadership in open source is more about collaboration and is more about influence. I feel like there might be something here about not influence. It's like more like collaboration, reaching consensus. I don't know if the word influence is the right word here. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents, and that's it.
Can you repeat that?
The last one.
You said something about inclusivity.
Oh, point number 4, be inclusive. The point number 4 says be inclusive, involve other designers and non-designers in the process. And he says open source is all about collaboration. I would add in a point here: open source is all about collaboration and reaching consensus as a group. Yeah, open source is all about collaboration and reaching consensus as a group. And then in the last final sentence, where it says, remember, leadership in open source is often more about influence and inspiration than authority. I would remove the word influence. I would say is often more about collaboration, consensus, and inspiration than authority, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I had the same feedback. Even the term leadership doesn't seem quite right. I think
Yeah,
another term that comes up more often is champion. So
yeah,
it's because leadership does kind of assume an authority. And
yeah,
I mean, maybe you have authority, but it's very soft, right? It's more people based. It's like people respect, or merit based, right? People respect your decisions because you thought through them and you did the work, and everyone can tell you mean well and all of this stuff. So maybe changing leadership altogether with championing different
fully agree. That's a great title
initiatives.
suggestion.
Yeah.
So changing the heading to not leading design initiatives, but championing design initiatives. Yeah, exactly. It's a good one.
Yeah, and to give an I must take notes, right? To give an example, like with if you look at the Bitcoin Design Guide channel, I sent a link there for a conversation with Blue Wallet. I thought Blue Wallet could rename one of their features instead of using the technical term, using a term that uh, people understand.
Hmm.
Uh, but they said, well, we look to the ecosystem to let us know kind of how to do this. We implemented this feature as experimental, as a niche thing, and then we look for other signals in the ecosystem. Like once they implement it and we see adoption, then we will improve the user experience. So okay, then well, but if everyone is in that situation, then who actually makes the move, right? If you want to establish standards, if you want to push like good design forward, and the individual projects always look out to all the other projects, and you want to help improve that, then how do you like that? And you can't tell them, right? There's no authority. You can just try to make it sound really awesome to them and show a good solution, and that is more championing than leading, I guess.
100%. Yeah.
Exactly, paper psych. That is a key question there. What if UX improvement is the thing that drives adoption? So yeah, check out the Bitcoin Design Guide. There's a conversation channel. There's a conversation around that happening right now. So I think that is an advanced topic, right? And I think it ties into this leadership thing. Um, yeah. So I think something also that's I don't even know how to say this in the best way is like you can't ideally like you kind of help the group find its goal, right? And then the individual people just kind of they start going off and doing things towards that goal, right? That's so it's you're like facilitating a movement in a direction rather than leading it. So I think there's some detailed stuff to
Fully agree. And
clarify there.
for those of you who are on the call, there is a lot of freedom and self-driven movement that happens when you work in open source, because together as a team you'll decide on this larger vision, and then it's up to you to go run with the vision. No one's going to tell you what to do. They might help you along the way, but you just have to run with it, and you have to trust what you're doing is the right thing.
And yeah, and constantly kind of look around and ask other people like, what do you think? Is this
Yeah,
cool? What do you think? Or maybe try to convince them. Or it's an interesting like
yeah.
massaging thing.
It's fun though. You're your own champion. Whatever you want to work on, you work on it and be your own champion. So I hope this inspires you. If there's anything you've seen in the community you want to work on, just go run with it. Run with it. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
being
Camille.
misguided, that's how you have to run into some walls, not some walls. Right? You have to bump into things a little bit to figure out the right thing. That is
Exactly.
totally normal. Even
Exactly.
the most experienced people will do that. Okay, I can read the next one. So creating and maintaining design systems. A design system is like a set of building blocks for your project's interface. It includes things like color schemes, typography, buttons, and other reusable components. Here's how to approach this. Start with an audit. Look at the current state of design in the project. What patterns already exist? Define principles. What are the core ideas that should guide all the design decisions? Create core elements. Start with basics like color, typography, and spacing. Build components. Design reusable pieces like buttons, forms, and navigation elements. Document everything. Clear guidelines help everyone use the system correctly. Plan for maintenance. Design systems need to evolve. Set up a process for updates and additions. Get buy-in. Work with developers to make sure the system is technically feasible and easy to implement. A good design system can dramatically improve consistency and speed up development in your project. So I have a couple thoughts on this one. Yesterday I did a revision of the chapter called Contributing Design Assets, and that's it. When we read it, we were not quite happy with it, and with the new reframing there, it actually talks a good amount of this about design systems. So maybe that can link back to that new version of that other page. The other thing, and I think that's something that's often forgotten, design system. Technically, there are two big parts of it. One is kind of the UI kit itself, like what the buttons look like, colors, all the stuff. The second part is usually has something to do with governance. Like how does it get updated? Who uses it? Who manages it? Who maintains it, right? If like you work on, we all work together on a project and one of you has like a change or component, like how does that make its way in? That is the bigger companies really have huge processes around this stuff. For smaller teams, we might have 1-2 people or so that just manage things kind of loosely. But that's also typically something to look for because, let's say one person does all the work and creates a design system, then another one comes in and they just ditch it all together, or the one person goes away and then it gets forgotten. And so there needs to be kind of a communal embrace of this thing as well. So I think that could find its way into that text. But yeah, it is a great thing to have for many projects. I guess another aspect could be here for more technical project. You could just say use an existing one, use Bootstrap, use something else. Because not every project needs or wants to have its own unique design. Any other thoughts on this design system topic?
I was taking notes, so I really am not able to comment.
Okay. Cool. Then we can also start with the next one, handling complex design challenges. Any takers for this one?
Let me take that.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Handling complex design challenges. Open source projects often face unique design challenges. Here are some you might encounter. One, balancing customization and usability. Many open source projects pride themselves on being highly customizable, but too many options can be overwhelming. Find ways to offer flexibility without sacrificing ease of use. Designing for diverse use cases. Your projects might be used by individuals, small businesses, and large enterprises. Design solutions that scale across these different contexts. Accessibility at scale. Ensuring accessibility across a large, complex project can be daunting. Develop processes to bake accessibility into every design decisions. 4, designing for internationalization. Your project might be used worldwide. Consider how your designs will work with different languages and cultural norms. Bridging design and technical constraints. Sometimes the ideal design isn't technically feasible. Learn to find creative solutions within technical limitations. Approach these challenges as opportunities to innovate. Often solving them can lead to insights that benefit the wider design community. This take actually helps with complex design challenges pretty much. So when I was going through this prior to this call, this section really works for me. The only issue I have is just the heading for designing for internationalization. Is there a way that wording can be simpler? So that's just my take on this.
Cool. Any other thoughts on this one? What have been the most complex things that you've worked on?
Nothing really complex on Bitcoin, but just some other Web2 products. For Bitcoin, I'm just like diving in and I'm looking at some of the stuff I can contribute on in the community. I'm really interested in the Bitcoin core, but that's a little bit complex in a way because there's a bunch of research that has been done. So I'm still trying to break it down a little to see how best I can like come in. But in terms of Bitcoin, that's the only one I see as complex. But yeah.
It gets insanely complex, and there's also different types of complexity. There's kind of people complexity. There's technical complexity. There's this complexity of like in the text about different use cases. Like some projects, like BTC Pay, they have like plugins, or some other projects have like a mini app store to tackle that complexity. Kinds of different things. But yeah, with Bitcoin, we're like in some crazy complex realm here. Maybe Bitcoin should be its own point here. Okay, conducting large-scale user research. Any other points on complexities, or should we go to the next one? Any other readers?
I can go. Yeah. Okay. Conducting large scale user research. As project grows, so does the need for user research. Here are some advanced techniques. First, A B testing. Test different design versions with real to see which performs better. Analytics. Use tools to gather data on how people are actually using your software. Longitudinal studies. Follow users over time to understand how their needs and behaviors evolve. Segmentation. Analyze different user groups to understand their specific needs and behaviors. Part, participatory design involve users directly in the design process through workshops or co-design sessions. Remember to always respect user privacy and follow ethical guidelines when conducting research.
Any thoughts on this one?
I think it can be more detailed, maybe. This is just like the points. So maybe we can explain more or yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where, for example, linking out to the Bitcoin UX research kit could come in handy. There are many
Yeah.
different resources out there for how to do different types of research. So if but right, that's a thing. I think PaperPsych said that in some previous comments. Like, is this open source specific, or is this just any project that's a little bit bigger? Right. So and if this text here is not open source specific, how do we make it open source specific? I mean, it's good if we have general tips, right? But it's even better if we have more. Yeah, I don't know. Any more thoughts how to add and maybe a little bit more detail, or go one step
So
further?
I'd like to invite anyone else to think about, like, you've worked on open source projects. What have been the top three research methods that you've used? I'd just like to hear from everyone on the call. You can just put it into the chat. I'd like to not provide my own opinions about this. I've asked this question before, but there seems to be some research methods which seems to be used on repeat amongst projects. So if you have used some on repeat, just feel free to add that in the chat, the names of the methodologies that you have used. As a high-level comment, I would say conducting large-scale user research, I would remove the word large-scale, because at least I've never come across any large-scale research in the last few years that we've done. It tends to be very specific niche-orientated research. And then this could be really highly simplified. I would even take away the word, here are some advanced techniques, here are some methodologies. I would remove all of the methodologies that they've mentioned and add in the top three, which we've used in the Bitcoin design community. And those would be usability testing would be point number one. Jobs to be done would be point number two. And point number three, yeah, that's a tricky one. Yeah. I mean,
So to counter that a little bit, so this is about advanced topics, right? So
yeah.
what is advanced research? Like research that you don't do when you just have like a small feature change or
Yeah.
technical stuff. Like what is it? So I shared a link to Patricia Estibau's research, which is super comprehensive. Things like 14,000 words or so, the whole thing. And she did these interviews and created these personas. Maybe is that advanced? Right. I mean, even if you just scroll down there, it's a lot.
I'm not going to give you the answer you require, because I think that any methodology could, the more you expand on it and the deeper you dive into it, it could be as detailed as you want. So you could choose to sort of skim the surface with the research, or you could choose to dive in. I think this is more ethnographic research that she did. Is it ethnographic research to uncover like deeper psychologies? I haven't fully read this, but maybe ethnographic research is something that tends to get very granular. Maybe that's something that we could add in. I don't think A/B testing is very granular.
Maybe
I
large
mean,
scale is not the right term, because it's not about the getting a million people. Maybe it's more about the depth, or
it's about
doing a type of,
in-depth user
yeah.
research.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe you could put in ethnographic research over there. Segmentation is a very good one. So number 4 is a good one to stay. I'm not familiar with longitudinal studies.
Okay. How about this? It says as projects grow, building a research database for all the research done in the project.
Yeah. Research database.
Okay. So this section needs some tweaking there.
Yeah.
Like you could have a very simple tool, but it's used in so many different ways that you just need to go really deep, even though your tool is very simple.
So you guys on the call have not used any research methods on repeat. Let me just share the link to the UX Research Toolkit in the channel. So next time you're thinking of doing research, you have a resource, okay? I'm going to share it in the channel. Okay.
I mean, Georgia, if you remember what she said a few years ago. So she's a very experienced researcher. She's more in the Web3 realm, but she said like, yeah, you just need three different research techniques. Like you need interviews, need this and that, and that's it. Just do
That's
those.
it.
It's more about
That's it.
doing the basic ones more frequently, rather than doing the 100 different ones that you might find on some design website that tries to list all the different techniques.
Less is more, and more granular in three techniques that work good is more effective. You help a project more.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Um, okay, any takers for the next one? Please go ahead, Toby.
Thank you. Okay, which is balancing open source work with professional commitments. As you take on more responsibilities in open source, balancing this with your day job can be challenging. Here are some strategies. One, set clear boundaries. Decide how much time you can realistically commit to open source work. Two, communicate with your employer. Many companies support open source contributions. See if you can incorporate it into your work. Three, focus on synergies. Look for open source projects that align with your professional work. Four, use your time efficiently. Tools like time blocking can help you make the most out of your open source time. Five, don't overcommit. It's okay to say no to new responsibilities. If you're already it's okay to say no to new responsibilities if you're already at capacity. Six, take breaks. Avoid burnout by taking time off from open source work when needed. Remember, sustainable contribution is better than burning out. Um, this has actually been an issue for me because I actually don't. I hardly take on open source um, work because I actually don't know how to balance it is professional work because sometimes I most times I don't think it's easy for you to gauge how time consuming a particular some projects can be. Sometimes you don't know when you can bite more than you can chew. So I think this particular section is actually very straightforward for people like me because I'm actually seeing some points which I think can help me. So I think that's it for me.
Yeah, this really seems to come up. This really seems to be an issue. I mean, it's not. It's like it's also an issue in regular work, in jobs. People take on too much, but it's also one in open source. And because you're a little bit more on your own, it might be harder to find to figure out how to deal with it, or who to talk to. But we also hear this from various Bitcoin core contributors who they have very intense situations. Like they might get sued for millions of dollars or so by some randos, or try to get influenced by different groups who want certain things. um, so yeah, and there's also another project going on that's kind of trying to analyze the impact of the psychological impact of open source, and identify ways how to deal with that. So definitely an evergreen topic that will probably always stay relevant. Mo is also, talked a little bit earlier about what she's doing. So yeah, a good one to put in. Um, but I feel like there are two things in here. There's one, there's one kind of taking care of yourself, like the more personal side, and the other one is making it work with a job or profession. Actually, there are three things in there. Let's say you're employed and do this on the side. That's one thing, right? The other thing is that this is your job. You rely on grants, or you get paid by your project or something like that. And the third part is really, how do you personally balance this kind of work and way of working in your life. What do you think of splitting this up a little bit further?
Fully agree with splitting it up.
I'm just gonna keep chatting or reading, or I'm just gonna take some
Yeah.
notes real quick.
Would anyone like to read the next one that says navigating open source politics, project politics? Would anyone like to read that one?
Let me take that.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, navigating open source project politics. Large open source projects can sometimes involve complex community dynamics. Here's how to navigate them. One, understand the governance model, know how decisions are made in the project. Two, build relationships, get to know key stakeholders and understand their perspective. Three, be diplomatic. When disagreements arise, focus on finding solutions, not winning arguments. Four, stay neutral. Avoid taking sides in conflicts that don't directly involve you. And five, use data. When proposing changes, back up your ideas with user research or other evidence. Six, be patient. Big changes often take time and require building consensus. Seven, know when to step back. If a situation becomes too contentious, it's okay to take a break. Remember, every open source project has its own culture. Take time to understand and respect it. Okay, I like this section. It's actually straightforward and it helps because some of the challenges most time is you don't know when to come in because like you come into an open source project, you already see some top people already like participating, having conversations or doing the work. And you don't know when to step in, when not to overstep. And it's a bit it's confusing sometimes. So most times I just like step back and just wait to like understand the project fully before I like jump in. So yeah, this is really straightforward for me, and I like this section.
PaperPsych added a comment, let's not call it governance model. I'm just copying and pasting that into the comments. Do you want to maybe hear more about that?
Why not? Why not governance model? Does it sound too much like politics? Like someone's running a country, or
PaperPsych? Yeah.
I'm trying to think here too. I think so. Something with the Bitcoin Core app documentation. What we noticed and thought about is that we've been working on this project for 3 years now or so, and there are some questions that keep coming up. And we decided, well, we're going to document these questions. So whenever they will not come up as often because there'll be like a written answer and explanation for it somewhere. Because I do think sometimes when someone's new to the project, they want to know, like, how does it work? How should I, like, what's the history? How do I go about this whole thing? And some people come in with a ton of energy. They just start bumping into things. Other people, they carefully kind of read up and listen in. And I think for the people that come in with lots of energy, sometimes the energy fizzles too fast too, because they just bump into things and maybe they're not patient enough. So I think it's really helpful. It's really important to think about if you're longer in open source, like how people find their way in and give the right paths to do that. Like writing the documentation that explains the basics and explain some things where a lot of people come in and they think like, okay, it should be this way, but they haven't thought about it all the way through, and it's actually a different way. Help them get to that point, so they can get I think you can avoid a bunch of politics and things when you just explain and document things properly.
+1, +10, +11. V, you're smiling.
Me?
No, V is smiling.
Sorry. I mean, in Bitcoin, all the stuff that gets talked about, and people are so aggressive and nasty to each other sometimes. It doesn't have to be that way. But that's politics. Yeah, I don't know. This is like, okay. Any other thoughts on this one? Okay, I can take the next one. Mentoring new designers. Well, I guess it's kind of halfway talked about that just now. As an experienced contributor, you can play a crucial role in bringing new designers into open source. First, create good first issues. Label some tasks as suitable for newcomers. Second, write clear documentation. Good docs make it easier for new people to get started. 3, offer constructive feedback. Be kind and specific when reviewing others' work. 4, share your knowledge. Write blog posts or give talks about your experiences. 5, be patient. Remember that everyone starts somewhere. 6, celebrate small wins. Recognize and appreciate all contributions, no matter how small. By helping others, you're not just growing the project, you're strengthening the entire open source design community, and that's exactly what we want to do, right? Love it. Yeah, we can put our blog posts here with kind of the share your knowledge blog post type of deal. We can put some example of talks. So, question for everyone here: have you actually looked to good first issues? Is that something you're familiar with? That's something you look out for? Clearly seems to be a developer thing.
No. I have another one for mentoring new designers is, I don't know if it's in there clearly, but celebrate their contributions. I mean, it says here recognize and appreciate all contributions, but I mean recognize is more, I don't know if recognize is the right word. It's more like tell other people about everyone's contributions. I mean, I always have it if I write a blog post and if anyone assisted in anything, even if it was 15 minutes of their time, I will always try to mention that person's name. So it's about giving
Credit.
It's about giving credit, which is a little bit different to recognition. Recognition is giving credit, but I don't know. Yeah, that's it.
Go ahead, Umar.
Yeah, so I usually go through the GitHub repo, but I've not been able to find like a good first issue to like say, okay, maybe this is my in to this open source work. So is it like here create good first issues? This is for mentors, right? So how does that like help? Because I noticed a bunch of new folks joining into the Bitcoin Design Guide community recently. So how can this like help us out in order to get like first issues to like get our hands on how this whole thing works? This is a question for Christoph and Mo.
So to be honest, I have not found a good answer for that. I think this might be easier for developers where there's like, oh, this function here has a bug, right? And you just need to fix it. And it's like writing a little bit of code. With good first issues, and you know the Bitcoin Design Guide is like it's highly complex, right? You need a certain amount of knowledge and do some research in order to be able to contribute stuff there. So I think there generally it's kind of, it can be pretty hard to find good first issues, and then oftentimes good first issues are just super easy to do for like the maintainer, they can just do it real quick. Like it's quicker sometimes if they do it rather than if they like put this thing out there and then wait maybe 2 months until someone asks about it. And then sometimes people say like, hey, I want to do it. And then they just go away and you never hear back from them. Like these small things can sometimes also, it can be easy to just kind of take care of it. So good first issues are a very particular thing. Something we've done before was, so in the Bitcoin Design Guide, we have a thing called design challenges, where it's just like, design kind of a certain flow in a Lightning wallet or so. And, here's kind of, and it gives you a bit of a challenge, something you can do. We've also done this thing where a lot of the pages have like these header images. And sometimes we just didn't create the author didn't create a header for the image. And then we just kept it as a good first issue, like read through this page, create a header for it. And then it's more about, being creative that way. Because there are fewer dependencies on it, right? It's not like complex code that you have to compile and it has to be secure or, all of the stuff. Yeah, it sounds so easy, the good first issues approach, but it's not, in my opinion, or in my experience.
V, go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, like I'm a little confused at why this section is here, because this guide was for the new designers that wants to come in. This section looks like for the mentors, like if they want to be mentors, or like maybe it should not be there in this guide. Like this is mentoring new designers, and it's for like not for the new designers, I suppose.
It's true. This is advanced topic, right? This is when you're not so much the new designer anymore.
Yeah.
I would.
Maybe instead of this, just the talks, like the talks that you were talking about, the talks or the blog post, to just refer to them, we can put it, not like how to mentor a new designer.
I mean, in a way, it's kind of good if even a new designer, if they on their horizon, if they already get the idea, oh, when I have more experience, I can give back, I can be the mentor now, and they already maybe think about it. So it's kind of a nice idea to plant, maybe.
Okay, yeah, that's that can be there.
I'm going to throw a curveball in, and I'm going to say, not use the word good first issues. You don't have to solve anything. You just need to make an attempt.
Yeah.
And your attempt is good enough. You might make attempts and you might totally mess things up, and that's okay. You might make attempts and you might think, I don't know what I'm doing, and that's why it's a first attempt. So, and there's two parts to it. The one part is the psychology, because you're making an attempt. We do not expect you to solve it or come up with the end all final piece of information, the textbook version. And the second thing is you have to find what you're interested in, because if you're not interested in that topic where you're making your first attempt, you will not be able to continue with it. So there's one thing is contributing, and the other thing is having a genuine interest. So what I would say is open the Bitcoin Design Guide in front of you. There's all those different tabs in there. I know it's very mind-boggling. Feel yourself intuitively, go and dig in the different sections and feel like, this is interesting. You'll probably go into some sections and you'll think this is completely boring. I'm not interested. Just exit, keep on digging. You'll find one section that you think, I can contribute something. Like, you'll read a paragraph and you'll be like, this is just not well written. I can probably rewrite this. And that's it. You've made your first contribution. Just go to the issues, go to GitHub, Bitcoin Design/guide, make a suggestion on the one paragraph, and you've made your first contribution. That's it. It's,
Yeah, that's true. And I just pulled up our join page here on Bitcoin Design Up, and actually doing something on GitHub is kind of further down the road.
Yeah.
Right? Just joining a conversation, testing a wallet, or just making an icon or something. It's commenting on a document that people are working on. That's all contributing. Those are all good first things to do. So I think Yeah, like I said earlier, I think good first issues works better for developers.
You can even just copy and paste the text into a Google document. And in the Bitcoin design community, we have the Bitcoin design guide channel. Just take the Google document, link it to the section in the Bitcoin design guide, which you think could be improved. And then that's it. Like, you've made your first contribution. And that's sort of moving away from having to do anything on GitHub, because we definitely understand that GitHub is a hurdle for everyone, for all of us in the beginning. Kamari made a comment. Maybe we can direct the new designers to people that can guide them towards contributing their first contribution, sort of like a personal mentor. Yeah. I mean, Kamari, that would be amazing to do. I know that, I'm sort of, with the boot camps that I'm doing, I'm definitely moving into sort of a mentorship role. And I thoroughly enjoy doing that. I love supporting you guys. We just need to find that person who has the time availability, or maybe time box that as an activity, when that can happen. Because right now on my plate, I'm not able to take that on, at least for the next 3 months. But maybe it's something that we very intentionally do for a sprinted period in the community. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the mentoring is great. The availability of the experienced people, of the maintainers, they usually get pulled in a lot of directions. And especially on the technical side, a lot of the more technical people, like, they don't really want to be mentors. They just want to be technical people. So it's sometimes also, but yeah, I mean, you can always reach out. For example, Uti. Where's Uti from? I know he's from the African continent, but I don't know. But he contacted me. He just told me all the stuff that he was doing. We were just chatting with him. He was working on Resolver, which was part of about a year ago. Took part in some hackathons and things. Super nice guy. We had good conversations. He was just telling me what he was doing and asking for feedback on things. So you can also reach out to people and feel that out.
I have a question, and this is me doing on the ground research. This is for you, Umar, Paperpsych, Toby, Kamari, and V. If you've all been hanging around now, I've seen all of you on a bunch of calls, right? You guys are like running with us, like, you've been here, you're showing up. If you haven't made your first contribution, do you think that you would be able to complete your first contribution if someone, a mentor, was just walking beside you, not really telling you what to do, but just guiding you when you had a little bit of things that you would be struggling with? Is that what you think the final piece of the puzzle, or do you think, well, maybe it's something else? Umar, go for it.
Yes, absolutely. So when I first joined, there are a couple of stuff I'll see Christoph post on the GitHub channel, and I'm like, oh, I can actually like talk on this, even though I don't know much. I can actually, just my experience as a UI UX designer, I can actually talk on this, but I just don't know how to go about it. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, should I send a DM to Christoph, or should I send a DM to Paperpsych or somebody? But I just get, okay, let me not be intrusive, or like, I mean, I don't know you. How would I just send a random DM? So I just let that slide, and I'd be like, okay, maybe someone else will handle it. So if we had somebody that would just be, okay, maybe new designers, new people who, that want to work on open source, this is like a channel you can like talk to somebody here and know how to go about this. I think that would be super helpful.
Yes,
First,
actually, my first, yeah, go on.
go,
Okay,
VV, it's
so
yours.
my first contribution was like I only did once. It was on Zeus. I did the accessibility thing, and that was when Mo and Christoph helped me. Like, they actually told me that this is there, and if you can do it, you should do it. So I was like, yes, I can do it. So I will. So that's what I did. So yeah, it was helpful when I knew that where I can contribute and what can I do in open source.
And Kimari says, I do. I'm actually looking forward to contribute however I can. I just need someone who could guide me around how I could make it happen. Thank you so much for answering our question, everyone. I appreciate your honesty. We don't forget your feedback, and that's why we just use this as an open, I just use it as a research opportunity. Thank you so much.
I mean, for me, I also basically had kind of a mentor. Like I just did a design that I posted on Reddit. It's like, hey, I made this design, and someone said, cool, it's implemented. And I said, I have no idea. I've never done anything open source, but sure. And this person was super friendly and helped me get started with everything.
So I had two mentors. I would say Christoph was a mentor for me when I first entered into the space. And I would say that, I forget as well, from BTC Pay. How can I forget his name? Pav as well. But this mentorship happened in a sort of a non-traditional sense because there was gentle guidance, but then there was also a lot of self-running. So my mentorship looked like this. This is very honest. I would basically randomly spam both Christoph as well as Pav, and I'm not encouraging any of you to do this. I would jump into the inboxes. I'd be excited about a topic, and I'd say, look, like you need to know this. And then I would do the same thing in the Bitcoin design channels. So I would be like, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about that. Like, why aren't we talking about it? And I was just all over the place. And eventually they were like, we can't ignore her anymore. She's become too annoying. Let's get her into the space. And that's how I ended up in the space. So you can create your own mentorship, you know. And this was for me just a couple years ago. So you create your own mentorship opportunities for yourself. Be prepared.
Thanks, Mo. Now bring it on.
All right. You create it yourself. I'm not saying that Christoph and I are not the only two people capable of mentoring in the Bitcoin design community. So, you know, if you look around in the channels, there's a lot of people who are active and very knowledgeable. So, you know, knock on their doors too. The more people you ask questions, the better it is for you. You don't want to get all your information from the two of us. I don't know everything. You want to get it from as many people as you can. So, yeah. Cool. And now I've derailed the conversation enough. So let's
okay, we just have a conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'll read that real quick because I also have